Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the STIHL TIMBERSPORTS Nordic Championship here in Jönköping. I really hope I said that correctly because I'll probably be butchering names all day long, which I probably shouldn't do. But we have a full slate of activities for you today. It is a busy, busy day as far as STIHL TIMBERSPORTS is concerned at this Nordic Championship. We have the day starting off with the rookies who are now coming up onto the stage. And then we will move on to our women's competition, and we'll close out the day with the men's championship. And it's a big day for everybody that's here because these are about qualifying for the next stage of evolution in STIHL TIMBERSPORTS. For the men later on in the afternoon, it means one will be going to the World Championship and qualified for the World Championship coming up in Italy later on in the year. In the meantime, though, we're going to bring our rookies up onto stage and get this competition started. As always, we're going to start things off with the stock saw, then we're going to go to the standing block chop, then the single buck, and we'll close the rookie competition with the underhand chop. It's about beating the time and not the guy that's on stage with you. You'll see two athletes on stage at the same time. And looking at our lineup of rookies, we have Oskar Jus, Dennis Olsen, Johannes Olsen, Ludwig Bergqvist, Louis Schindelheim, Hans Stenberg, Axel Björk, Simon Jens Burras, Bo Anderson, Albin Nilsson, and Johan Staff. It's a mix between Denmark, Germany, Norway, and Sweden. So it should be an interesting contest on stage here today. Now, because we do have 13 athletes in the mix, we will have the first heat with one single athlete on stage, and that will be Oskar Jus starting us off. All right, before we get things going, let's take a look at how this competition for our Nordic Rookie Championship 2025 will break down. Here's a little information for you.
The STIHL TIMBERSPORTS Rookie Competition. All athletes will compete in 4 disciplines. The maximum points awarded for each discipline result from the number of participating athletes. The first discipline is the stock saw. The fastest athlete will receive points equal to the total number of athletes competing, down to 1 point for the last place in each discipline. The second event is the standing block chop. Points remain the same, awarded based on times, and as with all events, any rule infraction will result in a disqualification and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. As the third discipline, every competitor will need to show their skill in the single buck. And in the underhand chop, it's the athlete's last chance to claim valuable points. The points from all disciplines are accumulated, and the athlete with the highest point total wins the competition.
All right, as I said, we have the stock saw to start our competition off for the rookies, and there on the right-hand side of the stage, you see Oskar Jus. And he is just waiting for a saw to be delivered to him on stage. As you can possibly hear in the background, the saws are being tested quickly to make sure that they are competition ready. And as you heard in the sport description shortly, what this means for our athletes.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL TIMBERSPORTS as the ultimate test of operator skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional STIHL technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark. One downward and one upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks.
All right, and there you see our start list. As I mentioned, because we have 13 athletes, we will have our first athlete alone on stage. Excuse me, not 13, 11. All right, final tests for the saws have been made, and Oscar Jus has been delivered his saw on stage. Now, as you heard, it's about technique, it's about feeling the saw, it's about really knowing the machine that you're working with to be able to cut through that block and get those 2 cookies on the deck as quickly as possible. You don't want to push too hard and bog out the saw and slow down that chain, but you also don't want to be feather light on it. So again, it's about listening to the saw. It's about feeling the vibrations in the saw and knowing that piece of equipment so that when you push too hard, if you feel it's starting to bog down a little bit, you can ease up a bit and try and get an efficient as possible cut. It's not about power here, it's about technique.
Gentlemen, my microphone is not going. Test, test. Test, test. Hij staat uit. Test, test. Check, check. Check, check. Check, check. Yep, yep. Ik heb geen microfoon. Ik heb nog steeds geen microfoon. Test, test. Test, test. Check, check. I should be on a microphone. Oké. Ja, ja, ik blijf praten. Ik heb hem aanstaan. Ik heb hem aanstaan en blijf praten. Check, 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 check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not out on the mic.
And all right, ladies and gentlemen, we've just got to wait for a moment so that our judge on stage, Bart Janssen, has connection to our backstage crew to make sure that we can move forward with the competition. Just having a little mic problem at the moment, so that's the reason for the delay. So Oscar will have just to wait a moment until that is solved and we can start this first category off in the Nordic Rookie Championships 2025, and that is the stock saw. As I mentioned, that's the STIHL MS661 saw that you're looking at there on screen. It's nothing overly exciting done to that saw. In fact, nothing is done to the saw at all. It is the same saw that you can buy off of the shelf in your local STIHL dealership. They're not allowed to adapt the motor. There's no chain changes. The bar is the same as what you would buy off the shelf, and this is the reason why they call it stock saw. It is literally stock out of the box. Of course, it's been maintained by STIHL technicians to make sure that all the saws are operating under the same parameters so that it is a fair competition for all the athletes that are using these saws here today.
I don't know where the problem is. Iemand heeft schuifdek gezet of een muisklik gedaan. Oh nee, toch? Oh nee, doe het zelf niet. Test, test. Test, test. Ja, vi hörde några piper i alla fall. Ja, det var det. Härligt.
I should point out that the rookie world record for stock saw is 9.09 seconds. That's currently held by Ivan Bambushka from the Czech Republic, who got it at the 2023 Rookie Academy in the Netherlands. So that is a nice goal for these guys to look at, to try and reach, as Oscar still waiting to have the go-ahead for the opening of this Nordic Championships here.
Yes, yes. Yes, we're back online.
All right, here we go. We got the blast of the whistle to indicate that we are good to go for our first heat.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Boy, struggling on that upcut. That is a long upcut there, and definitely not a world record. So 12 seconds and change, and our judges will take a quick look to make sure that we have complete cookies and that no lines were cut, and we'll have a final decision at the decision zone at the front of our stage shortly here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the cut's good.
All right, so we have our first good cuts in the book. 14.98 seconds is the official time there. And again, not a world record, so that graphic was incorrect. So we'll keep a close eye on things as they go. And let's take a quick look back at this cut. All right, he had a nice pickup. That was a fairly thick first cookie. They have a thing here in Timbersports called thin to win. On the upcut, you can see he's using his leg to try and support that saw and bring a little bit of extra power to it. But I think he might have pulled a bit too hard on that upcut, slowing the saw's chain down and making the cut a little bit slower than it could have been. So Oscar just with a 14.98.
Gör rent på scenen nu såklart, så att det blir tid för nästa tävlande här. Och nästa tävlande som kommer upp på scenen nu är ju Dennis Olsson. Så jag tycker att han ska få en varm applåd också när han kommer upp här. Och han kommer möta Johannes Olsson. Kommer göra samtidigt här.
All right, on stage now we have heat number 2 with Dennis Olsson and Johannes Olsson. These two competing on stage at the same time. I should point out again, this is not a race against the person that's on stage with you, but rather a race against the clock. You can see Johannes, 16 years young. I think our youngest competitor here today is 14, Johannes is 19, Dennis is 16. And I believe our youngest competitor here today is 14. I'll have to double check that for you, but that's incredible that these guys are here and competing at this level at this age. It's fantastic for the future of timber sports.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, a heavy drive into the block by Dennis Olsson. Johannes got a cutout. That's going to cause problems for him. He's going to have to go back and cut a second cookie. Meanwhile, Dennis Olsson's working on his upcut. He's struggling to get through there nice and clean, and he's got a 15.79. Johannes Olsson is now working on his upcut. You can hear that saw bog down a little bit, and this is what is about the knowing your tool. 25.35 for Johannes. So we have a couple of times locked in. Now the question is, are the times valid? Our judges will check those cookies to make sure that there are 2 complete cookies on the deck. And that is a critical point. Now you saw that Johannes Olsson had a cutout. He started at the angle and had more or less half a cookie on the deck, and then realized it, went back up to do another cut, and that slowed him down.
We have disqualification on stand 1. He cut the line. However, stand 2 is good.
All right, so that's unfortunate for Dennis Olsen. He's got a disqualification for cut over the line. And this could be due to the transition at the bottom. He could also be at the very top of his cut. He entered that cut with almost a chop like he was using the axe. We'll take a look back at the slow-mo if we can see that. And perhaps we'll get a better view of where the cut line came from, if it was on the upcut or otherwise. No, actually, that first start was, I mean, other than it being almost hammered into the block at the top there, it looked pretty good. So it could be his transition at the bottom of the cut here, the big swing. Yeah, okay, unfortunately, we don't get to see that. And there, you can see from Johannes the cut out. He realized it, went back to the top of his cut and restarted to make sure that everything was straight. And here you see that upcut from Johannes. And oh, it came close. It came close, but that looks like a good cookie on the deck. So we have another time in the block. Johannes Olsen, 25.41, currently sitting in second place right now as we set up our third stock saw heat with Ludwig Bergqvist going up against Louis Schindelheim from Germany. So there's Louis Schindelheim coming up onto the stage now, representing Germany, and Ludwig Bergqvist joining him in stand A to the left-hand side of the screen. Stand B on the right-hand side. So we're going to see a few athletes from different countries. Hans Stenberg from Norway, Bo Andersen from Denmark, Simon Jesnes Buras also from Norway in the mix today. But in the meantime, our next heat number 3 with Ludwig Bergqvist and Louis Schindelheim on stage.
Okay, gentlemen. Warm-up.
Time to beat so far, 14.98, held by Oscar Just. So at the moment in the lead at stock saw.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Bit of a tentative start by Ludwig Bergqvist as he gets into it. Schindelheim, wow! Look at the cut by Schindelheim. A fantastic transition onto the upcut by Louis Schindelheim. Bergqvist looking good on his upcut as well. And we got a couple of quick times here. Oh! Ludwig Bergqvist with a 15.55, but Louis Schindelheim with a fantastic cut, a 13.01. And so far today, we have a bunch of personal bests, but that is a massive second cookie. And we have a flag on the play on the German side of the stage. Louis Schindelheim might have a cut line, as that second cookie of his was massive.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a disqualification on stand 2. He cut the line. However, stand 1 is good.
All right, so unfortunately for Louis Schindelheim, it's a DQ for a cut line, and yeah, the transition was really nice. It was just too far over, and that second cookie was massive, and that means Ludwig Bergqvist with a 15.66 slips into second place just behind Oscar Just, and so far the top 3 guys also have personal bests. So Oscar Just, Ludwig Bergqvist, and Johannes Olsen in the first 3 positions respectively, all with personal bests, which is fantastic to see. That was a really nice start by both of these gentlemen here on stage. You can see that first cookie by Louis and by Ludwig were really nice. A little bit of a problem on the upcut there, but he recognized it, Ludwig, and he repositioned himself. And look at the size of the cookie on Louis's cut. That is an absolute monster cookie right there. And there you can see, after recognizing the problem on the upcut, Ludwig did the right thing, and he got himself 2 cookies on the deck. All right, next heat up, we have heat number 4, Hans Stenberg up against Axel Björk. So Norway against Sweden on stage right now. And there we see Axel Björk.
Hey. Okay, gentlemen. Warm up yourself. Athlete ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, Hans Stenberg leaving it real close to the edit on that one. Axel Björk doing a good job on that transition to the upcut. Hans Stenberg working to catch up, but it is going to be a great time for Axel Björk. He'll take the top spot with that time. And Hans Stenberg struggling a little bit there on his cuts, but he looks like he's got 2 cookies on the deck. Well, so far, those are the best cuts we've seen on the day, except for Oscar Jus, who still has the top time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Stand 2, DQ. He had a false start by 600.
Oh, no.
Stand A is good.
Well, with all the struggles that he had at the start and getting in there really late, Hans Stenberg managed to slip into 3rd place with a time of 16.97 officially. And unfortunately for Axel Björk, he had a disqualification because of a kickstart or jumping the gun. He was 0.06 of a second too fast. Let's take a look back here. There you see Hans Stenberg took a little bit of time to aim that saw and really making sure that he had it good. That was a beautiful transition from Björk, though. Unfortunately, he was just a little bit too quick on the pickup and start of the cut. A very nice cut otherwise, and there you could see the problem with Hans is that he didn't have his blade or the bar of the saw all the way through. All right, next heat up, Simon Jesnes Buras against Bo Anderson. Bo Anderson is an up-and-coming athlete. His personal best, 10.65. We've seen him around the rookies for a while now. Will he be our top man? He's absolutely one of the favorites in the rookies this year. Simon Jesnes Buras. His personal best for stock saw, 11 and change. And Bo Anderson, there you see his personal best, 10.65. So we're looking for a good cut from this young man here today.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up yourself. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, quick start by both of these guys. Bo Anderson looking good. Oh, transition from Jesnes Buras is great. Bo Anderson on that upcut, but Jesnes Buras has got a quick one. Oh, 13.33 for him. Bo Anderson had to go back and do a little bit of adjusting, and a 15.58 unexpected slow for him. And Jesnes Buras with a 13.33. If the cut is good, he will take over the top spot in stock saw.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both guns are good.
All right, so we have 2 good cuts, and that means Jesnes Buras moves to the top of the rankings with Bo Anderson slipping into 3rd place. Oscar Jus's time of 14.98 has him sitting in 2nd place. And look at the start by both of these guys. Nice thin cookies, actually. Bo Anderson taking a quick look across the stage. That's a mistake, in my opinion. Here's a transition, a bit of a swing, but Jesnes Buras did a great job to get that. It's a bit of a thick cookie. He came close to the line on that upcut, but he kept it in tow and made sure that he had a clean cut. Bo Anderson, also nice thin cookie, but he was just a little bit slower on that upcut. All right, our last heat, heat number 6 here in stock saw. Albin Nilsson against Johan Staff. Johan Staff, also a man working on the experienced side of things for Sweden. We've seen Albin Nilsson around a little bit as well. Both of these guys experienced. Personal bests of under 12 seconds, so we could have a nice heat here. National record holder for Sweden for the rookies.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up yourself. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, very nice start by both of these gentlemen. Johan Staff looking good. Nielsen right there with them, though. Transition for Staff was fantastic. Nielsen with a good upcut. He's lost a little bit of time, though, pulling too hard. And Staff has a 12-13. Nielsen with a 13-6-6. Those times are, of course, unofficial until confirmed by our competition control center. But it looks like we have good cookies on the deck for both of them.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both judges good.
So Johan Staff takes the top spot with a 12-13. Albin Nilsson with a great run moves into third place just behind Simon Jesnes-Buras with a 13-5-1. So that is discipline 1 done and dusted, as our staff and crew will take care of the stage to make sure that we are ready to go for our next discipline, and that is going to be the standing block chop. And so far, we can look back at the replay from this heat. Watch the start. Fantastic start by both these guys. Good positioning, great alignment. Nice thin cookies for both of them. Transition right here, though. A little bit of a swing, but nice aim on the upcut. And he's got himself a clean line through that upcut. Here you can see Albin losing the tip of that bar a little bit, but managed to keep the flow going. Bit of a fat cookie on that second one, and you could worry a bit about coming across the line at the top of that cut, but he did a good job. So in stock saw the official results is Johan Staff on top with Simon Jesnes-Buras in second place, and Albin Nilsson bringing up third place with Oskar Jus, who held the top spot for quite a while with a 14.98 personal best. And rounding out our top 5 from Denmark, Bo Andersen. And there again, our fantastic staff getting the stage set up, and let's take a look at what this discipline, the standing block chop, is all about.
The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Standing block chop. At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 27 centimeters has to be cut through from both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result.
All right, so there we have our standing block chop lineup, and as we move through this competition, it's only going to get a little bit more difficult. One of the most difficult disciplines to get good at, though, is this discipline. Typically, new people will start on the underhand chop to be able to learn the control of the axe and make sure that they know the angles that they're hitting at and how to really work the axe properly before moving to the standing block chop. And this is going to be evident in a couple of instances, probably during the day, if you see the axe skip off the block or if the athletes start to get tired, you're getting in a bit too straight. And we'll illustrate that as we move along. And there you see our stands set up and ready to go. Now, we're not going to have 4 athletes on stage at the same time. It's always 2 or 1. And our first heat has Oskar Jus against Dennis Olsen. Oskar Jus having a good start to the competition, currently sitting in 3rd place in the overall standings. World record for this discipline, 11.90 seconds, held by Simon Grunwald from Poland, who is an absolute machine. He's moved to the pro level as our athletes come out onto stage now.
Då ska vi se, kommer vi starta med Oskar Jus och Dennis Olsson som nu förbereder sig.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, getting into it right away, and you can see these guys working the angle as best they can. And there, it's exactly what I was talking about off the top. A little skip because the angle was a bit too much, and another one. And at that bottom cut, these guys need to bring it from the floor up to the block as much as possible. Otherwise, it's just going to keep skipping off of the block, and that's an important safety aspect as well. And these athletes will not be allowed to compete in this discipline unless they can show that they are proficient with the axe and can keep control of that axe throughout the discipline. It's a very difficult discipline to get good at as well because there's so much technique that's involved in this one, and you can see Oskar Jus moving over to the other side of his block now. I call that a bit of salad on that first side. There's a lot of material still left in there, and you can see a straight chop in, and that axe just bounced right back out. It wasn't getting a clean angle and moving wood out of the way. Meanwhile, Dennis Olsen moves over to the second side of his block and starts working on the 2 upcuts. And he stays on the bottom as he's trying to get through there, and we've already passed the minute mark. So we have to be aware as well that there is a time limit that these guys have to get through those blocks. Dennis looks like he might be getting close to cutting through as it's wiggling and waggling. Oskar just getting close to it as well. They've really got to work hard here. And both of them are getting a DQ as they have passed the 1 minute 30 time limit for this discipline.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately we have DQ. Both stands out of time.
Ja, så går det vanligt att man är klart. Och vi sopar lite här också. Då kommer jag återkomma också med ställningen efter första omgången. Vi puttar på de bilderna så kommer jag informera er om detta också.
All right, so unfortunately, you can see as this discipline is one of the most difficult disciplines to become proficient at, you cut efficiently by cutting with technique. And these guys are still working on that technique. And this is what the rookies is all about. It's about learning the technique. And here, let's watch this really closely here as Oskar getting a couple of nice first hits from the top and off the bottom. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see that skip, but there was a driver in the bottom where the axe skipped up and away. Now here, there's some pretty good technique from Dennis Olsen. He's hitting from a lower angle, but the power just wasn't there to get through these blocks and cut within the limit. So 1 minute 30 passes, and that is all she wrote for these 2 gentlemen. So we have a DNS and did not start for Johannes Olsen because of the permission, let's call it, to be able to use or do this event, and a time limit exceeded for Oskar Jus and Dennis Olsen. As we get now to heat number 3, and this is Louis Schindelheim up against Ludwig Bergqvist.
Okay.
And again, these are all really young dudes
Athlete,
competing
ready.
here and
Stand to your
gaining
timber.
experience. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Ludwig Bergqvist looking good with that technique. Schindelheim, similar as well. Nice drivers from down low in the angle that he needs to get those chips out. You want to get that material out of the way as efficiently as possible. You don't want to leave any salad or junk in there. Some really nice chips flying from Schindelheim's block. Bergqvist gets a little bit of a sticky one there. For a slight fella, though, he's got some good power. Let's see if he can get through there in under the 1:30. Schindelheim has already moved over to the second side of his block as he works those initial cuts to try and get that first bit of chipping out of the way. And he's got some nice drivers coming. Oh, and there's a big skip right there, and that's exactly what we're talking about. That's a perfect example of those angles and being able to control that axe, but he did a good job to stay in control of the axe and make sure it didn't go flying. Bergqvist now moving to the second side of his block at the 1 minute mark as Schindelheim is getting close to those final drivers, and Schindelheim drops it in 1:04.02. So we have our first block on the deck, and the German Louis Schindelheim has the top time of the day. Bergqvist now has about 15 seconds to go before that time is going to run out for him, and you can see the fatigue starting to set in. Those drivers are coming in straight rather than at an angle, and that is going to cost a lot of time, and it doesn't look like he is going to make it through. And no, he will not do it, so he gets DQ'd for the time limit being exceeded. And in some of these disciplines, I think we're going to see that a lot today. As I mentioned, the standing block chop is a very difficult discipline to become proficient at.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Stand 3, DQ, out of time. However, stand 1 is good.
All right, so we have our first time locked and loaded in the books. Louis Schindelheim from Germany with a 1:03.69. And, yep, these guys will take this experience to heart and work on their technique. You don't have to have a ton of power, but if you can mix power and technique, man, you are a force to be reckoned with. So you see here, Ludwig Bergqvist, a little bit straight on the cuts at the driver on the bottom, so he's going in too straight. And you can see right there the axe bounced a little bit. Schindelheim, his angle is a little bit better on those upcuts, and you could see he cleared out more material right at the start, and those final 2-3 drivers, wow, that was power there. He got a bit sticky on those drivers, and yeah, you can see it, those last one, he was just trying to get it through, left maybe a little bit too much, and trying to do those power drivers to get it off the top in a bit of a rush. And there you can see straight cuts in. It's not really chipping the material out, it's just bouncing it off, and that is where that technique comes in and plays such a big role. And again, this is what the rookies competitions is all about, is trying to gain as much experience as you possibly can so that you can get good and proficient in these different disciplines. All right, the next heat coming up as our stage crew gets the stage ready for heat number 4 and 5. Heat number 4 will have Hans Stenberg going up against Axel Björk, and heat number 5, Simon Jesnes Buras against Albin Nielsen. So all the stands are prepared off stage prior to the heats so that they can just come up, plop the stands in their specific block locations, drill them into place so that they're solid, and then competition can start very quickly. We have to hand it to them. They're doing a great job out there to get these stands and stage prepared each time. They've got to clean all that sawdust and wood chipping away because you don't want any of that lying on the stage, especially in this discipline when you've got to have your footing and stable footing moving around the block with that razor sharp axe in your hand. It's such a critical component, and so making sure that that stage is clean and these stands are in place as quickly as possible is very important. All right, and if you guys want to get involved in the conversation, don't forget hashtag STIHL TIMBERSPORTS. There's another hashtag we love to use, though, and it's my favorite. It's hashtag KissMyAxe. So, yeah, both of these hashtags can get you guys involved in the conversation and keep you up to date on the happenings and goings-on with STIHL TIMBERSPORTS, the different events, your athletes, and, yeah, basically just to see what's happening. All right, standing block chop heat number 4. Again, there you see that world record, 11.90, Hans Stenberg, going up against Axel Björk. Both of these guys having very similar times under the 1 minute 30 mark. Let's see if they can get there or come close to improving on that. Again, super important is the technique used in the standing block chop discipline. You want to make sure that you have those correct angles. You want to use those angles to the best of your ability to get out as much material in the least amount of drivers as possible.
Okay.
So it really is a mix of power, accuracy, and technique. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Hans Stenberg with some pace already as he gets into that. Oh, when he got a bit of a skip there. And again, talking about technique and position and control of that axe. It's super important, but both of these guys really going at it. Axel Björk, a couple of straight drivers off the bottom. Hans Stenberg also a couple of straight ones off the bottom, and they really need to get into their knees and get into that upper chop to get that angle really working to their advantage. Axel Björk moving over to the other side of his block already. Stenberg following about one driver behind Björk and picking up the pace on that second side. Hans Stenberg, he's got a bit of a wiggly one there as he tries to get through there. Axel Björk looking close to the finish on his as well and trying to do a straight driver to get through there, trying to work that power. Oh, that is going to be a great time for Axel Björk and should be a personal best for him as well. What an improvement. And also for Hans Stenberg, both of them under a minute time, definitely improving massively from their previous personal bests of 1:12 and change. So great job by these guys, dropping a couple of personal bests here. Axel Björk, the fastest time of the day so far, with a 49.51.
Good.
I love to see those moments. You know, you could see the improvement by these guys as they work the blocks and their training paying off. So fantastic. All right, a quick cleanup of all the sawdust and chips from that last heat, which was fantastic. That was a really nice heat between Axel Björk and Hans Stenberg. Both of those guys positions 1 and 2 respectively in the standing block chop, and so far only 3 have clocked the time. So we're hoping to see some additional times coming in now. Simon Jesnes Buras going up against Albin Nielsen. Both of these guys with times well under a minute, so this should also be an interesting heat.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Albin Nielsen choking up on the axe nicely with each of those setup drivers, and both of these guys getting in some really nice hits there. Jesnes Buras having trouble with a lot of material just hanging there in his way. but he moved over to the second side of his block quite quickly, and it looks like, oh, a massive skip by Jesnes Buras as he kept control of that axe. And man, you have to have some grip strength. If you have the grip strength of a gerbil out here, you're in a lot of trouble if that axe flies away like that. And he did keep control of it. Oh, and look at the knot in the block of Albin Nielsen, but he gets through in 37.70. Wow, another good time. And Jesnes Buras now trying to get through there as he is struggling on that second side. He might have gone shortcut on the first side, and that's causing problems for him on the second side. Is just a little bit too much material is left, and finally drops it at 54.40. So a little bit slower than his personal best, but a great time by Albin Nielsen, getting himself a new personal best at 37.70.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both goods are good.
All right, so we have another 2 good times in the blocks. And Albin Nielsen at the moment is leading in the standing block chop with a 37.45. Great time, as you can see him here. Nice wide stance with his feet, nice low position, really good use of the axe angles. And there you can see that skip by Jesnes Buras. And that final driver, even with that knot in the way, Jesnes Buras here trying to get through that last with a few big hits. Might have been a little bit faster had he worked on that first side a little bit longer. Nevertheless, 2 good times in the block, and right now, Albin Nielsen and Axel Björk and Simon Jesnes Buras in the first 3 positions, respectively, in standing block chop. And the last 2 stands will be set up for heat number 6 between Johan Staff and Bo Anderson. Bo Anderson, this is a discipline that he is quite good at. And speaking of being good at it, this wood that we're using, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, what the heck is going on, folks? You've got chips and wood, and what's happening there? Well, this wood is all sustainable, and just to explain a little bit more about how that works, let's take a look at this brief clip about what's actually going on.
We as STIHL TIMBERSPORTS pride ourselves that all wood is sustainably grown, harvested, and recycled to minimize the overall amount of wood processed. Firstly, this popular wood is grown on certified plantations. Secondly, the white pine for our sawing disciplines is only sourced from certified forest management. After all our STIHL competitions, all the spent wood is collected and recycled right down to the wood chips and sawdust, which, for example, is converted into renewable energy in the form of wood pellets for biomass. We quest to find certified partners. This ensures that all newly planted trees are nurtured and managed, promoting maximum efficiency and sustainability for the future conservation of our valuable forests.
Therefore, as you can see, with good harvesting practices and good management with silviculture, the ground is quickly replaced by new trees, or could even be used for arable for farmers and future rotations.
All right, ready to go with heat number 6 with Johan Staff and Bo Anderson. Both of these guys experienced axemen and looking to create some drama here with fast times. As I mentioned, Bo Anderson, very, very adept at this discipline here. He's a strong chopper. Let's see if he can get some action going.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
You can see Bo Anderson getting into it right away with pace, and he keeps that low stance. He's got great angle, and you can see he's pretty accurate as well, at least on those down drivers. As you can see, he's got a pretty smooth entry into the block. A couple of steps there, but not too bad. Johan Staff on the other side was first to the second side of his block, and he's looking quite fast. He really wants through that block quickly, and he may well do it under 30 seconds. Oh, he's got a massive chip in there, and he's got a problem as that thing split down the middle. Bo Anderson with a 27.79, Johan Staff with a 28.10. Both could be personal bests if they are cleared. Let's see. Johann Staff not happy with the way that block split because he could have had it maybe a little bit faster.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both cuts are good.
All right, so both cuts are good. A fantastic cut by Bo Anderson. A very nice cut by Johann Staff, and that block splitting didn't help his day at all. It went right down through the base to the stand, but nevertheless, he's got himself position number 2 with a 29.77. Bo Anderson, official time 27.85, and in the top 4 positions, the guys all have personal bests. Let's look back at this here now. There's Bo Anderson. You can see he's got pace, he's got accuracy and power, and those are all the things you want. Johann Staff, the first indications of that block splitting were right there as he switched to the second side, and then you could see it wiggling and waggling as he got started on that second side. Meanwhile, Bo Anderson on the far side of the stage there, really working hard on side number 2, and you can see pretty accurate cuts there, a couple of little steps, and there's where that block split, and it really caused problems because Johann Staff had to go back and drop that thing with one huge piece down the middle coming out. So standing block chop is done and dusted. Bo Anderson atop the standing block chop ranks with Johann Staff and Albin Nielsen in positions 2 and 3. Let's see how that affects our overall standings now as we'll make some adjustments in the lead. And Johann Staff is in the lead with Bo Anderson and Albin Nielsen in position 2 and 3 in the overall standings as we move to our next discipline, and that will be the single buck coming up shortly. All right, so what's this single buck all about? Well, we call it the misery whip, and here's why, folks. Take a look at the single buck tool and discipline.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around 1,500 euros. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc of a 46-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success.
So there we see our start list, and we're going to get Oscar Dius back into the mix now as he'll be in Heat 1 all by himself once again. And then we'll drop the needle on Dennis Olsen and Johannes Olsen. Starting list more or less the same as what we saw in the stock saw. And we'll get the single buck started here. Now they call this saw the misery whip because it's 2 meters long, and to control this saw, you can't rocker it up and down. If you rocker it up and down too much, these long 10-centimeter long teeth or the sweeper or raker teeth will hook up on the edge of the block and stop that saw dead in its tracks. You have to keep that saw moving. Otherwise, it will cause you misery, hence the name misery whip. And the other thing is if it does get hooked up and you're close to the bottom of the cut, the cookie that you're trying to remove off of that block could get broken away, leaving a small tab at the bottom of the cut, which is also devastating in some cases because that little tab still needs to be away from the block in order for it to be considered a complete cookie or a fair cut. So these are some of the things that we're going to be keeping a close eye on with these rookies. It's one of the easiest disciplines to learn because really, what do? You push the saw back and forth, and these saws will do the work. They are so efficient at cutting And then it's about just having that efficiency working for you, using the entire length of the saw, using as flat and straight a cut as possible without rockering the saw at all. And I'll tell you what, it is tiring. If that saw stops and you have to restart, that is a bear to wrestle into action again. So it's about keeping that saw moving. It's like a dance with a dangerous partner. So Oscar Jus will be our first athlete on stage. 15 years young, this lad. And love to see the young guys getting into the mix. He's going to try and gain himself some points here, as he did not compete in the standing block because he didn't qualify for the competition in standing block. So also here is about setting that saw in, and we'll see our judges have this little tool. There it is in his hands right there, and that's going to help get the saw into the block so there's no skipping or problems with the start. And Oscar Jus opting for a fairly thin cookie to get things started, which on one side is very good because you don't have as much binding material on the outside of the cut, but on the flip side, a very thin cookie can break off more easily if you get to the bottom of that cut, as I mentioned, and that saw bows or stops and breaks off that cookie. Let's see how he does.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right, so immediately he gets shortcuts going, but you can see how quickly the saw stops, and it's really about trying to use the entire length of that saw. Now, he could be back a little bit farther from that block and use his legs a little bit in a deeper stance. And again, you can see the wrestling with this saw to try and keep it moving. And if you change that angle ever so slightly, it stops quickly, and then you have to restart it. It is my favorite discipline, but it also is a hell of a discipline to get good at and really be efficient. And you can see he's not using the entire length of the saw, but again, this is what comes from experience. And we're going to see some of our women with fantastic cuts later on today, and our men also, that experience playing a big role as you get better in these sports. So 41.24 for Oscar Jus, still faster than my best time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the cut is good.
All right, so that's an official good cut for Oscar Jus and a personal best for him, as he'll be happy with that time. And he's definitely going to take this experience to the bank and try and become better. You can see here, he's only using about 1/4 to 1/2 of the saw's length. And if he used the entire length of that saw and just kept it moving, standing back from the block a little bit, it would be so much quicker, and he could cut quite a lot of time off of that. But it was a nice cookie, no problems with breakouts there. All right, next up we have Dennis Olsen and Johannes Olsen up against each other on stage.
Då ska vi se, då har vi Dennis Olsson och Johannes Olsson som förbereder sig och sina sågar. Han reser med sina egna sågar, vilket ju... Ja, det jobbar ju fram med 2 meter långa. Men det finns också sågar lånare. När de kommer upp lite högre så är det ju såklart att man har sina egna sågar. Rookiesarna får ofta låna en såga. Då får man ju såklart låna en såg av STIHL. Det är riktiga kvalitetssågar som de kommer igång här. Och nu får de ju då fasta med lite.
All right, last sets here. As Bart Janssen gives him the thumbs up for his start. Now, sometimes what you'll see is an athlete will turn the saw upside down in the block, set it in the guide, and do a couple of test strokes. 2 things happen here. One, it clears out some of what you're seeing there, that slough or that extra material from the guide, and will also give the athlete a chance to practice his positioning correctly for a few strokes without actually cutting the material. Everybody's got their own headspace where this is concerned. Everybody's got their own setup. And you can see here a couple of different stances.
Athletes ready.
Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Dennis Olsen on the left-hand side of your screen, Johannes Olsen on the right-hand side of your screen, and both of them struggling to get that saw started. But now Dennis Olsen has got it moving, and he's using, I would say, about 3/4 of that saw length. Johannes Olsen trying to get it moving, struggling, but he's got a straight cut. Oh, we changed the angle a little bit. Now he is in trouble as that saw keeps sticking on him. Dennis Olsen, meanwhile, is almost to the bottom of his cut, and he's got a cookie on the deck with, looks like a very thin cookie. A nice cut by Dennis Olsen. Johannes Olsen trying to get the action going, and really needs to put those legs to work here and try and push into that cut and use as much as the saw as possible. As I said, you got to keep that thing moving. It's all about flow. You can see here his feet are slipping on that deck, and you will see that some athletes opt to use sprinting cleats, or in some cases shot put cleats, for better traction on the deck. And Johannes Olsen getting a little bit of support from the audience here as he tries to draw through the bottom of that, does it, and let's see what his time is. Oh, I do believe he's gotten himself a DQ for going over the time. Our screen counters have stopped, but Dennis Olsen with a great time of 25.91 currently has the lead.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, stand 2. Disqualification out of time. However, stand 1 is good.
All right, so we have a change of the lead in the single buck. Dennis Olsen with a 25.91 takes the top spot in single buck, as we'll get the stage ready for our next heat, heat number 3, with Ludwig Bergqvist and Hans Stenberg. You can see here, again, using about 3/4 of the saw, so not bad as far as efficiency is concerned. The really, really, really good sawyers, they're going to use as much of that saw, and what you'll see them do is they'll go knuckles to tip on their cuts. They really will get right into it and go through the entire length of the saw using those 10-centimeter long teeth and sweepers to cut as quickly as possible. And here you can see the struggle is real. Those last couple of draws and pushes here by Johannes Olsen. He fought through it all the way to the bottom, so that's admirable, but unfortunately he was DQ'd for over the time. And there you can see single buck results on the right-hand bottom side of the screen there. Dennis Olsen with the top spot for the moment, 25.91, and Oscar Jus just 15 seconds off that pace, but you'll see these guys improve as time goes on. All right, next up, Ludwig Bergqvist against Hans Stenberg. Time to be 25.91. Hans Stenberg has a distinct advantage being a very tall lad. Let's see if he can use that and really be efficient with his cuts. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So we see a couple of different styles here. Stenberg opted to go for the long cuts right off the bat. Bergqvist trying for a couple of short choppy cuts to get that saw moving. And let's see who's going to get it. Oh, Stenberg looking very good here on his cuts. Again, he's using a lot more of that saw. Bergqvist still struggling to get that saw moving. And Stenberg, there we see that cutout or that chip off and the little tab at the bottom. And Stenberg did a great job to hold that saw in position, and he got himself a time of 25.36. So that should put him in the top spot. Bergqvist, meanwhile, is struggling to get that saw and keep that saw moving as the angle keeps changing and he keeps locking up on his push through. And he's got to really, really push hard and struggle. His time is running out. He may have a DQ here if he gets to that minute mark and is still trying to cut. Yep, there we go. A DQ for time exceeded. And unfortunately for Ludwig Bergqvist, That is not going to bode well for some points for him, as that'll be a 0 points in this discipline. And there is a reason why we do have these time limits here, folks.
We have a disqualification on stand A, out of time. However, stand 2 is good.
And after adjustment, Hans Stenberg's time has been changed to 27:32. So he doesn't have the fastest time, as I alluded to. Dennis Olsen still holding on to that. Hans Stenberg sitting in second place currently, though, in the single buck. You can see here, the struggle is real, getting that cut. And there's where that chipped off, and then it was good that he kept that saw in position, didn't have to reposition the saw, because that just kills your time so badly. All right, next up we have Axel Björk up against Louis Schindelheim.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Big hand for applause.
So there's Axel getting ready to set himself up for the single buck.
Ja, då har vi Axel Björk och Louis Schindelheim på stenen här nu. Och förbereder sina stockar.
You can maybe make out that small line on the block there. Now that's a guideline for the athletes. They don't have to necessarily use that. They can make the decision go a little bit thinner on their cookie, but the risk is there that they could chip out or break out if they're not careful with their cut. Final preparations. Let's see how this heat between Axel Björk and Louis Schindelheim goes. You can see right now a couple of the guys putting down more or less skateboard grip tape, and just to give the guys a little bit more grip for their feet. This is an option if the athletes choose to have it. As I mentioned, some of the athletes will do this discipline wearing spiked shoes.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And Axel Björk with a really wide stand as he gets going with a bit shorter cut. Schindelheim, meanwhile, opts for those long cuts. He got a little bit stuck on his drawback there. He's having trouble now as he's trying to get that saw moving, and Björk is having the same problem as his angle changes a bit too frequently. Schindelheim seems to have the flow going now, and he's using about, I would say, 85% of the saw. Good time by Louis Schindelheim, 24.71. Axel Björk passing the 30-second mark here as we move down to the bottom of his cut. Now he's got the flow going. He needed that at the beginning. Oh, that's a nice cut with a 39.22. So Axel Björk will move into fourth place there. Louis Schindelheim, however, 24.50, a fantastic single buck for him, and he has got the lead at the moment.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both cuts are good.
All right, so thumbs up for both of these gentlemen as their cuts are made officially good. Louis Schindelheim at the moment with the lead in single buck with a time of 24.50. Dennis Olsen with the second position 25.91, only 1.41 seconds off pace, and Hans Stenberg in third place with a 27.32.
But you're in the lead, and we'll see how far it gets you.
All right, and here you can see this is where Lewis had pretty good flow after a few hookups at the early stages of the cut. Meanwhile, Axel struggled a little bit to get that saw in flow, and you can see there those angle changes and exactly why they call that the misery whip. That saw bows and locks up and just becomes a real nightmare. Good cut though by Louis Schindelheim, and at the bottom of his cut, Axel looked really good. Had nice flow. He just needed to keep that from the top of the cut all the way through. As we move to our next heat with Johan Staff up against Albin Nielsen. Both of these guys really quick times on the single buck, under 16 seconds. So this should be an interesting heat between these two Swedes. Again, it's not about eliminating one or the other on stage during the heat. It's about having the fastest time. But it's obviously nicer to be able to compete with another on stage, to get that adrenaline flowing and know that you've got somebody pushing you in the background. And you'll notice that at least Albin here is wearing spiked shoes and has a very wide stance.
Athlete ready.
Stand to
Both
your
gentlemen
timber.
do, in fact.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, a nice start. I was going to say I just jinxed him, though, by Johan Staff. He got a little bit of a hookup on that push-through. Albin Nielsen looking good, though. He's got a very straight cut, and he is looking fast. Could he better his best time? No, he will not, but it's a nice time. It's a very fast time with 16.93 for Albin Nielsen. That puts him atop the single buck rankings, with Johan Staff right behind him with a 19.24 in second place. Nice cuts. That's experience right there for you, folks, and that's why the rookies are doing this.
Buckets are good.
Let's take a look back at this again. So Albin Nielsen with a really, really nice start, deep in his cut. Great flow, and you can see he's going knuckles to tip there. Johan Staff struggled a bit on the start, and at the finish got that saw hooked up a couple of times, and that will take off a good 2 to 2 seconds on your cut. And restarting that saw, as I mentioned off the top, is quite a bear. All right, heat number 6, we have Simon Jesnes Buras up against Bo Anderson. Both of them holding respective national records for the rookies in their countries, Denmark and Norway.
Världsrekordet för rookies kan vi säga. Det går 9 sekunder ungefär. Det är en kille som heter Simon från Polen.
Now you can see another athlete who's going to be using spiked shoes, but he's wearing a pair of, sandals to protect the spikes and keep them safe. You can also see that almost oily film on the saw, and that is to try and help the saw glide through the wood a little bit easier.
Okay. Athlete ready.
Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Bo Anderson right into it. Jesnes Buras struggling a little bit off the start. Bo Anderson looking very good, though. He's more than halfway through his cut. And, oh, we got a bit of a hookup near the bottom, but he's going to have a good time. 15.91. That puts him atop the leaderboard right now in single buck. Jesnes Buras struggling as he gets past the halfway point of his cut and into the 32nd point. Oh, he's going to get under 30. 28.26. Not his best cut, but he got a little bit hooked up in a couple of locations during that cut. Bo Anderson, though, very, very nicely done on his part.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both good, good.
I love the results from Bart Jensen at the end with the 2 thumbs up and half smile. Always fun to watch him do the results. And there you can see the misery whip in action for Simon Jesnes Buras as the angle just changed a bit too often. He knows he could do this better. His personal best time, 14.67, definitely wasn't indicative of how he cut here today. Bo Anderson on the far side, he just did what he had to do, got himself a good time, official time for him, 16.19. So that puts him atop the leaderboard in single buck as we take a look at the final official single buck results. So Bo Anderson up there, Albin Nielsen with a very nice cut in second place, and Johan Staff sitting in third place in the single buck. Let's see how that changes our overall standings here. So overall, 30 points for Johan Staff. Bo Anderson sitting in second right now with 29, and Albin Nielsen with 28 in third place. So really, really close in the top 3 positions in the overall standings as we get ready for our final discipline, the underhand chop. All right, without further ado, let's take a look at the tool and discipline for the underhand chop and what we're going to be seeing out there.
Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes use an axe to cut through a 30-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides.
All right, so the underhand chop, and again, Oskar Jus on stage by himself, working that block and trying to get the adrenaline flowing for him on his own. And heat number 2, we'll see Dennis Olsen against Johannes Olsen, then Ludwig Bergqvist and Hans Stenberg, and so on and so forth. World record for this is 12:24, the season's best so far, 17:93. Important here is to watch out for DQs because of a cut foothold and an early start. Otherwise, this is a discipline that is fairly straightforward. Cut through the block as quickly as you can from both sides, as you saw from the opening discipline explanation. And you'll see that often in these chopping disciplines, the athletes will come out with 2 axes. This also is in case an axe gets broken, an axe handle broken, or the axe head gets chipped. It does happen, and this is the reason why they have 2 axes on stage with them. So it's a bit chilly out there, but Oscar, excuse me, has to remove the warm sweatshirt so that he can be out there and represent Sweden properly.
Okay. Athlete ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So this is the discipline where athletes will learn the chopping make sure their accuracy is good. You can see some nice accuracy on the right-hand side of those drivers, but the left-hand side is a little bit steppy here for Oscar. But he's got a nice starting cut here. He's not shortcut it. It looks like he's good to move to the other side. And a lot of people are also asking, hey, wait a minute, why is he wearing a pair of sneakers on that block? Well, the sneakers give you better grip and better control on the block. And you say, well, you know, what about the safety of these athletes? Well, these guys are wearing chainmail socks that go all the way up to their knees. So there is a safety aspect there, so they won't cut themselves badly if the axe does slip and hit a foot. You can see he stepped down a couple of times there, and it's okay, you can step down off the block, you just cannot swing the axe while your foot is on the ground. You have to have both feet on the block in order to swing through. Now he's got to be aware here of the time, but oh, that looked good. A 1:03.60 for the 15-year-old. Well done to get through that block, and it looks like he's got some clean cuts there. So you can see the skill is definitely there with the axe in hand. He needs to translate that to the standing block, and then he'll be the complete athlete.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the cut's good.
So that's also a personal best for Oscar. I believe this is his first competition, in fact. So quick cleanup for the crew here as we'll send our next two athletes out shortly. And you can see here, really nice style. The cutting for Oscar here is very good. That first side there, you can see they're accurate. The cuts are right on point. On that other side, you can see a few little ridges. Those are called steps, and that's where the accuracy plays in. And there you can see he got really deep down into the cut on the bottom end of that block and ended up getting stuck. And that's a really troublesome spot to get stuck in because you just don't have the leverage to pull the axe back out of the wood. All right, next heat, Dennis Olsen, Johannes Olsen on stage with each other again. Let's see how these two guys fare.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Dennis Olsen in the yellow, Johannes Olsen in the blue. Dennis looking good. He's got some nice chips flying out of that block. Oh, Johannes got a couple of good ones out of there as well. Dennis looking very good on this first side. I would expect that he'll be switching to the other side fairly quickly now. Nice deep cut as he switches over to the other side. Johannes Olsen still working on his first side. Could we see a good time from Dennis Olsen in the yellow? Let's see if he gets through this as Johannes has moved over to the second side of his block. His last couple of drivers for Dennis Olsen. Perhaps he's going to get through there. And Dennis Olsen is through in 1:06.62. Johannes Olsen has 15 seconds there about to get through before he times out on the underhand chop. And unfortunately, it is a DQ for time limit exceeded.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a disqualification on stand 4, out of time. However, stand 2 is good.
All right. So we have our first disqualification here. Johannes Olsen not quite getting through in the time limit of 1:30. I mentioned earlier about the time limits. It's a safety aspect as well. It's very important that these athletes don't get too overtired, because when you get too fatigued, then you start to make major mistakes, and that's the last thing we want to do here, especially with these very, very dangerous instruments in hand. They are razor sharp. and one small mistake can be a devastating thing to happen, and that is the reason for the time limits there. It's also a judgment call. In some cases, the judges will allow the times to go on so that the athlete can finish if they feel like everything is okay. Competitions for 2025 still coming up. We have the Nordic Pros and our women later on today. And then on the 14th of June, we're at the British Pro Championships in Malvern, Great Britain, which is a great time. The British Women's Championship also up there. 26th and 27th of July, we have the U.S. Championships with the women and the men. And then on the 3rd of August, we have the French Pro Championships. 16th of August, Benelux Pro Championships. Then the 17th, the European Trophy. That's always a fun time. And then the 30th of August, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. That's the pro final there. And the last chance for those lands to qualify for the World Championships. Then, of course, the Australians are going to be doing their thing on the 13th of September. And then into October, we jump for the World Championships in Milan, Italy, the Team World Championship and the Individual World Championship. The question is this year at the Team World Championship, will anybody be able to take out the Australians? The Chopperoos have been indestructible the last 4 or 5 years, and they are looking to just be record holders in the teams. It's amazing what they're doing out there. You can see those blocks, how they're shaped a little bit. Those are footholds on either side of the cutting surface. And I mentioned, you know, that the athletes have to be careful not to chop into the footholds. Again, it's another safety aspect. They do have those chainmail socks on under their shoes, but those footholds are critical, that they have a spot that is more or less protected for their feet. And you can see the lines drawn on the blocks there. Those are the guidelines for the athletes, and often the athletes will draw those on themselves to give them their starting points for their cuts, and then they just work from there. So those are our underhand chop blocks and how they're set up. All right, Ludwig Bergqvist and Hans Stenberg coming on stage now. So Norway up against Sweden in this one. So far, nobody coming close to the world record for the underhand chop for our rookies. Season's best is 17.93.
Okay. Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good start by Hans Stenberg and Ludwig Bergqvist. Both of them getting into it. Stenberg trying to keep that pace pretty steady with some nice accurate drivers there. Bergqvist in the blue on the far side of the stage from our view here. Oh, some nice big chips coming off for him. And wow, Stenberg has some really accurate drivers, looking like a very clean cut. Should be moving over to the second side of his block fairly quickly here. Boy, if he can match that accuracy with some pace and some power, he is going to be a dangerous man with an axe in the hand on this discipline. A little bit of a slip right there by Stenberg. Bergqvist on that second side as well, keeping pace with him as they both coming close to the minute mark here. Now passing that minute mark, they've got 30 seconds to get through those blocks. Dark spot in the middle of Stenberg's block may cause him to slow down a little bit, but he doesn't seem to be bothered by it as he just continues to do the work. Bergqvist also reaching a dark spot in the core of that block, but that's no big deal. These axes are insanely sharp. They've got a few seconds left here to get through it. Will we have another couple of DQs? I hope not, for the sake of these guys. Bergqvist is through. Will Stenberg be able to do it in time? It doesn't look like it. No! Stenberg's going to have a DQ, unfortunately, and Bergqvist just making it by the hair of his chinny chin chin at 126.44. And you can see there exactly what I was talking about. Bart Janssen let Stenberg continue through the cut because he made the judgment call that he wasn't looking too tired.
We have disqualification on stand 3. Out of time. However, stand 1 is good.
Ah, that is a bitter situation for Stenberg because his cuts on the first side were so clean and so nice. And as I mentioned, you know, add a little bit of that power in there and that accuracy is going to be a deadly combination for Stenberg. Meanwhile, Ludwig Bergqvist, a 126.12, has him currently in third place in the standing, or the underhand, excuse me. And you can see on that left-hand side of Stenberg's block, it is so clean. Those sides just don't get any smoother than that. And the last couple of drivers for Ludwig Bergqvist here as he gets through and splits that block. And unfortunately, this was a little bit too late coming for Stenberg, and that's a DQ for him. And again, this is what the rookies is about. It's gaining that experience and learning where it works for you and where it doesn't. All right, heat number 4, we have Simon Jesnes-Buras against Louis Schindelheim.
Okay. Athlete ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start by both of the guys. I didn't see any jump starts there, so should have a fair one. A little bit of a shaky block for Jesnes-Buras, though. I really hope that that's not going to affect how his performance goes through. Louis Schindelheim on the far side. And Buras is over to the second side of his block quite quickly. It doesn't look like he's shortcut, and he's actually increasing the pace on the second side. Jesnes-Buras taking a page from the Australians' book and hitting with quick pace, and he is through with a 29.75, a personal best, the fastest time of the day, and he absolutely obliterated his previous personal best of 49.24. That's a 20-second improvement for Jesnes-Buras. Schindelheim looking to get through that second side as quickly as possible. His personal best 52.05. I don't think he's going to manage it in this case, but he should be through in under a minute. One hopes, at least for his sake, and it looks like one more driver should do it. There it is, 58.28, under a minute for Schindelheim. So that is great for him. That puts him in second place in the underhands. But Simon Jesnes-Buras with a 30.04 cut, a fantastic underhand for him.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, both good, good.
What a great way to kill your previous personal best by Simon Jesnes-Buras. Just an absolute beast. You could see he had pace on that first side, and I don't think he actually shortcut that first side. At least I don't think so. He had a good, I would say, 8 or 9 hits on that first side, and then went to that second side. It almost seemed like he increased the pace on that second side. That was a great cut by Buras. Fantastic. And Louis Schindelheim with a 58, dead even, has second place right now in underhand. So current standings for the underhand chop, we see Jesnes-Buras in first place with Louis Schindelheim from Germany in second, 27 seconds off the pace, and Oscar Jus with third. And then we have Dennis Olsen and Ludwig Bergqvist with the other times that have been locked in. Two more heats to go as the stage gets set for our final two heats, heats 5 and 6. We're going to see in Heat 5 Axel Björk up against Albin Nilsson, and Heat number 6 Johan Staff and Bo Anderson. These guys have been kind of on a collision course with each other throughout the day. And as this is our last discipline, it will be the final chance to gain some points and get themselves into the overall standings. At the moment, Simon Jesnes-Buras has 33 points and is in lead in the overall standings, but Johan Staff and Bo Anderson have yet to hit on the underhand chop, so that will change things around as well. And failing any massive problems like a disqualification for a cut foothold or a jump start or otherwise, we should see them gain some points and move into the top of the rankings again. We'll just see who has what as far as their timing is concerned. So, stage is ready for heat number 5 as our athletes are out and ready to attack and whack. Axel Björk in stand A, Albin Nilsson in stand B. So both of these guys, well under a minute.
Athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Albin Nilsson, nice pace on that first side. Big chips coming out, and took a few drivers to get him there, but once he got those cleared out, it was a good fast drop of a bunch of chips all at once. And I think Albin should be quick to the second side here as he switches over. Nice flow. Axel Björk joins him about a driver behind. Some big materials coming off of both of these guys. Some pretty clean sides there by Axel Björk on his block on that second side. Ooh, step down. He's got to be careful there as one more driver should do it just to make sure he's clean through. Ooh, that was as close as it gets. 47.43 to 47.54. We'll take a look at those times once they're adjusted. Axel took a couple of, he hovered a bit to make sure that he was stable enough for those last drivers. Oh, but we do have a flag on the play. Now I'm curious about what is the flag about.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a disqualification on this stand. He cut his foothold, there's a safety point. However, stand 1 is good.
Oh, that is bitter for Albin Nilsson as he's got a cut foothold. We mentioned this earlier on, and that is going to cause a DQ. Hopefully, we can get to see that in the slow-mo. And as it was mentioned by Bart Janssen during the results there, that is the reason why there is a DQ, because of the safety of the cut foothold. So let's see if we could see that. It came on the second side of the block here, and I believe it might have been really early on. Yeah, right there, I believe that was the cut foothold, and that was the problem, and he was cutting so well. So Albin Nilsson, he's got a DQ, and that means Axel Björk, his time with a 47.04 puts him in second place, and that's a personal best for Axel as well. All right, so this should be a good heat here between Johan Staff and Bo Anderson. Bo Anderson loves the axe in hand. He holds the national record for the underhand and for the standing block, so you know he's very good with an axe in hand. Slowly becoming a very well-rounded timber sports athlete.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Johan Staff and Bo Anderson were in sync with each other, and then Johan just decided, I think I'll start hitting a little bit faster. Really nice chips coming off for Johan at this point, and well, Bo Anderson struggling to find footing as he switches to the second side, about 1.5, 2 drivers ahead of Johan Staff on side 2. Question is, who's got pace and the accuracy and power on that second side to get through that block quickly? A little bit of a strange position of the cuts for Johan Staff, and I really hope that he hasn't cut through one of his blocks, footholds. Meanwhile, Bo Anderson's gotten through there in a 36-39, and Johan Staff with a 41-47. So Bo Anderson and Johan Staff sitting second and third, respectively, in the underhand chop.
Both cuts are good.
And it's official, both cuts are good for these gentlemen, so that will definitely add to their overall point standing, as we'll take a look at that after we take a look back at the slow-mos here. All right, looking back at the slow-mos, first couple of drivers for Johan Staff, and then he decided he's just going to pick up the pace. Bo Anderson on the other side kept that pace going more or less from the very get-go. A little bit of struggle by Bo Anderson here to try and find his footing to get that second side going. Once he did, though, he was continuing a good steady pace and got through that block in a very solid time of 36-25 officially now. And Johan Staff not that far behind him. Last couple of 3 drivers here for him to get through his block, and that put them in second and third places respectively in the underhand chop. So Jesnes Buras with the top time of 30.04. That's going to bode well for him for points, and Bo Anderson and Johan Staff in second and third places. Let's look at the overall standings now, which will be our final results of this event. And Bo Anderson atop the overall results with 40 points, but only 1 point back is Johan Staff. And then it is Simon Jesnes Buras in third place. So very, very well done by these gentlemen. And you can see the future is bright for STIHL TIMBERSPORTS with a fantastic lineup of very, very talented young Nordic athletes here. So a great job by Bo Anderson to take this one down with a solid 40 points. And yeah, well done, as we can definitely say congratulations to them. We'll go up on the stage, I believe, for the awards ceremony shortly, and then we'll get that stage ready for our women's competition coming up next.
alldeles strax prisutdelning här. Vi ska bara kolla själva att det är på plats och att domarbussen är nöjd med allting som de har sett här idag. Så det inte är några konstigheter. Någonting som har smugit in. Så vi kommer alldeles strax tillbaka med lite prisutdelning.
All right, last preparations seem to be finished for our STIHL TIMBERSPORTS Rookie Championship, Nordic Rookie Championship. And we're just waiting on the athletes, and we'll bring them up on stage and present our prizes. Backstage, our women are getting themselves warmed up and ready for the women's competition, which is coming up next. Don't forget, if you want to get involved in the conversation, folks, we do have a couple of hashtags you can use. There's one on screen, bottom left. It's hashtag STIHL TIMBERSPORTS. The other hashtag we have is Kiss My Axe. That's my favorite one. I love it. So hashtag Kiss My Axe. And you can get involved in the conversation and check up on your favorite athletes and so on and so forth. All right, so we're going to bring our athletes up on stage from 11th to 4th, starting with Johannes Olsen. Oh, excuse me, no, we're going to do just our top three by the looks of it. So in third place, Simon Jesnes Buras. Sometimes we bring all the athletes up on stage, and sometimes it's just our top three, but in this case, it's our bronze medalist, Simon Jesnes Buras, on stage in third place. And by virtue of a fantastic underhand chop, he jumped up in the rankings very, very nicely. That was a definite improvement for him. In second place, we have a Swede, Johan Staff. So it won't be long before we're seeing this young man in with the pros and competing for the big spots. And there he is. This is going to be something familiar to him. Top spot, our Dane, Bo Anderson. A great job by him. Stayed consistent throughout the day. And we have a nice mix on stage right there. We have a Danish champion, we've got Sweden in second place, and Norway in third place. So that really says all you need to know about where the Nordics are at when it comes to STIHL TIMBERSPORTS. Great job by these guys, and a big congratulations. And we'll allow the pictures to speak for themselves as I step away and we prepare for our women's competition coming up in just about half an hour's time.
Sjunde plats, Hans Stenberg. Åttonde plats, Dennis Olsson. Nionde plats, Ludvig Bergqvist. Tionde plats, Oskar Ljus. Och efter plats, Johannes Olsson. Alla tävlare får en stor applåd.
Imponerande tycker jag. Fantastiskt imponerande. Vad är det som gjorde att du drog igång det här tillsammans med din fru? För det var ju
Mycket bra jobbat. Tack så mycket alla ni som har tittat. Och tack, thank you all fantastic combatants today. Tack ska ni ha. Ska vi ha lite segerintervju tycker jag här också. So we do it in English because you're from Denmark and you can't speak Swedish. How does it feel?
It's nice. Great.
Unexpected?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I haven't trained at all. Yeah. So yeah.
It's just a massive amount of talent there.
Vi bygger inte ny fabrik för att vi inte ska gå framtiden heller, utan det här är...
Well, very well done, very well done, very well done. We also beat up to the second place also from Sweden. Från Sverige, vi kan på svenska oj, vad härligt.
Det är väl lika roligt.
Ja, vad tycker du om det här då?
Nej, men jag visste att det skulle vara väldigt tajt mellan mig och Bo. Nu var det en poäng också, så det... Ja, nej, men det är som Bo sa, det är... Varken jag eller annan tränare som berömmas på rutin och lite tur idag också, så att... Ja.
Rutin och tur. Det kommer man upp med, damerna och herrar. Då ska vi se, på tredje platsen. Från Norge.
Bara det då, att det är fantastiskt bra.
Ja, hur känns det? Är du nöjd?
Ja, det var mycket konstigt. Jag har inte förstått det på mitt år, men det är mycket höjd på
Ja, nästa gång blir det. Blir det nästa gång istället då?
Ja, men...
Mina damer och herrar, en jättestor applåd för hela gänget, hela rookie-gänget som har kämpat otroligt bra idag. Tack så jättemycket. Vi återkommer med damernas cup alldeles strax.